All right, we want to update a story we started following for you a while ago. Alberta is going to be holding a referendum in October.
The fact is, Alberta taxpayers can no longer be asked to continue to subsidize the entire country through equalization and federal transfers, permit the federal government to flood our borders with new arrivals, and then give free access to our most generous in the country's social programs to anyone who moves here.
Adding she does not fear democracy, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says the referendum scheduled for October will look at expanding the province's control over immigration, eligibility for public services, and more. So joining us from Calgary this morning is Dwayne Bratt. He's a professor of political science at Mount Royal University, and we appreciate you getting up extra early for us this morning, Dwayne. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome, Anne-Marie.
So for those of us who remember, referendums are all about the question. So what do we know about the questions Albertans may have the chance to vote on in October?
9 questions at the moment, 9. So 5 of them are on immigration, various degrees of immigration, some that involve ensuring that only citizens vote in elections and in photo ID, others requiring immigrants to have Alberta values and attempts at Alberta restricting immigration into the province, applying a fee or a premium to immigrants in Alberta to cover social services that I think is the most damning of them. So there's a bunch on immigration that she is linking with the budget. You have to remember the beginning of her TV address was about a very large budget deficit that's going to be announced next week, and she seemed to blame it all on immigrants and Justin Trudeau. The other 4 questions are all about constitutional change, abolishing the Senate, allowing Alberta and other provinces to choose judges, not the federal government, getting rid of the federal spending power, which is how the federal government can intervene into provincial affairs by spending money such as childcare and health care. And then finally, if there is a conflict between federal policy and provincial policy would be supreme. This all flows out of the Alberta Next panel, which was a series of town halls that Danielle Smith herself chaired in the summer. And one of the things that she said in her address was she was shocked at how much discussion there was at Alberta Next about immigration. Well, she chaired that panel. She put immigration on the agenda. She created videos about immigration. This is, as I said, demonizing immigrants. And I think that's the bigger takeaway than the 9 referendum questions.
I have 2 questions on that, but Dwayne, my first one is just addressing the point that she made about the flood of new immigrants into Canada by the federal government. It was also the province of Alberta who created a series of videos inviting people to come to the province during boom era because they needed workers. It was on the invitation of the province. So first of all, how does she square that? And then secondly, how does
on that
yeah, go ahead.
On that first point, I can add 2 other elements. We have video of her in 2025 arguing that Alberta should double its population to 10 million. Red Deer, which has about 100,000 people, should have 1 million people. The only way you're going to have that is through immigration. She wrote a letter in 2024 to Justin Trudeau demanding that Alberta have a higher share of immigrants. And so, yeah, she doesn't square any of that. All those 3 items that you mentioned, that I mentioned, were never in her address. And that's because there is a separatism petition going on in the province that is also extremely xenophobic and that is anti-immigrant. And she is playing some of those cards. She's ignoring the entire Alberta is Calling campaign. She's ignoring her call for more immigrants to Alberta. Now it's about reducing immigrants and charging them more.
I want to end on that question, Dwayne, because it is interesting to me. Separatists had wanted this to be about Alberta independence from Canada. This has now been wrapped in immigration with a united Canada being added in that. Is this the version of a referendum that separatists were hoping for?
No, the separatists are actually quite mad, and that's why she announced 9 referendum questions. We could have a 10th around separation, but I think what she's doing is priming the pump, that maybe in isolation people would not vote for some of these questions, but if you put separation on the ballot, maybe they'll go, well, we don't want to separate, but we're angry at Ottawa, so we're going to say we need to get rid of the federal spending power, or we need to have greater control of immigration. And so it becomes a sliding scale. It really confuses the thing. Under the Clarity Act, a separation referendum has to be a clear question. Well, should Alberta remain a province in Canada or become a separate country? That's a pretty clear question, but not if you add 9 other questions on the same ballot. So yeah, this really muddies the water around separation. I can tell you the separatists aren't very happy.
Dwayne Bratt, I always appreciate the clarity that you bring to these issues. Thanks again for joining us early from Alberta this morning.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.